Okay, awesome. So, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We know it's a super busy time of year, so we really appreciate you coming to join us. If you're already familiar with Soofa, or if you're somebody learning to learn more about Soofa, we're so glad you're here. And just to provide a quick context around today's topic, over the past few months, Soofa, we've really been diving into some market research about sustainability and the out-of-home industry. Since Soofa is a carbon neutral tool, we really wanted to understand what impacts traditional out-of-home platforms have on the environment and how Soofa compares to that. So we'll be sharing some research with you and explaining what Soofa is doing to remain sustainable. And just a little introduction here. My name is Ali. I am a content marketing specialist here at Soofa, and I'm joined by Brad Funaki, our media sales account executive, and Kyle Hawk, our director of marketing. So throughout this webinar, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A function down below. Feel free to put your questions in there, and then at the end of the webinar, we will go ahead and go through those. And then for our agenda today, we'll first start with a quick background on Soofa as a company and as a platform and how we fit into the out-of-home industry. And then we'll go into some what the current carbon impact out-of-home platforms have on the environment. And then given all of the research that we've done and, explaining, our role in the out-of-home industry, we'll ask ourselves, what role do advertisers play in reducing our carbon footprint, and where do we go from here? And on that note, I will pass it over to Kyle.
Thank you, Ali. Really excited to have everybody here today. This is a really great opportunity for us to share I think what we think are some really exciting findings and really interesting learnings about the out-of-home industry and its impact on the environment, and just a way that brands are starting to think maybe a little bit differently about how to reach their audiences out of home. And we'll be sharing plenty of that today. As Ali mentioned, if you have questions as we go along, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A spot, and we'll address those towards the end of today's webinar. But as Ali mentioned, you may or may not know who Soofa is. We're a women-founded company out of the MIT Media Lab that started in 2014, and we develop solar-powered communication tools that cities put to use in their communities to be able to reach their constituents with really important community messaging in a variety of different ways. And you'll hear Brad share some of that as well. But in addition, not only are these signs attracting people to them to learn about what's happening in their communities, but they're also used by our advertisers to reach their target audience. And again, we'll talk about more about that as we get into further into today's program. But currently, we're in over 100 cities across the country. We're expanding even further in the coming year, which is really exciting. Currently, we're the only carbon neutral platform in the out-of-home market. So we're just about to dig in a little bit to what that actually means and what it looks like for people that are advertising out of home today. And we're located in really high foot traffic locations that gives us really unique opportunities to measure ROI and help ensure that our brands are communicating the right message to the right people at the right time. Just this year, we've had the opportunity to work with some great brands that you probably heard of, like Harpoon, Red Bull, Wayfair, and many others. And included in those 100 cities we mentioned, we're in some key DMAs like Boston, Atlanta, Miami, Orlando, and many other locations. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more here as we go along. But to jump into kind of the core of today's topic, as I mentioned, being the only carbon neutral out of home platform, we kind of wanted to understand like what it means for all the people that we talk to who are looking to, reach their audience, whether it be in the right of way, on a billboard. And as we all know, in recent years, the prevalence of digital LED billboard screens and bus stop signs are everywhere. You almost can't go anywhere outside your home and not run into one of these screens. And they're really great because they're full color, they're very vivid and bright. They obviously attract the eye. And so many people are using these to do some really great creative brand work. But as we all know, anything that requires electricity is also, by and large, going to have a carbon footprint. So we wanted to get a little bit of an idea of what it looks like just on paper to understand what's happening here. So today, just on this slide, we're going to look at two things. One, just a digital LED billboard screen and a double-sided bus stop screen. So one, we were able to find that the billboard uses about 41,000 kilowatt hours of electricity each year, and the double-sided bus stop sign uses 17,000 kilowatt hours of electricity each year. Now, that can mean a lot of things because, as we all know, electricity comes from a number of different sources. But we were able to talk with some climate experts to help us get an understanding of grid averages in different locations across the country to determine how much of that kilowatt hour electricity is coming from a source like coal, natural gas, petroleum that's generating that electricity and thus is emitting carbon into the atmosphere. So we were able to find that just these two signs alone emit 22 tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere each year. And that sounds like a lot. It's kind of hard to kind of wrap your head around how much is 22 tons of a gas, but we know it's a lot, and we know that we're just talking about two signs. So if you were actually to think about how many different digital billboards there are just in your own area of the city that you live in, it's a lot, right? These numbers really start to add up. And when you really start to kind of put it all down on paper, it really leaves an impact. So one of the interesting things is we've begun to do this research this year is that we found that there are a lot of people in this industry that are starting to ask similar questions about the impact that their ad campaigns are having on the environment and the target audience for these brands, how they're beginning to think about how they want their brands to handle the stewardship of the planet and all that they do. Just a few examples of recent articles that we've come across. And by the way, I would highly encourage you, if this is an interesting topic for you, if you go to soofadigital.com/blog, we've got some incredible content where we're regularly aggregating these reports as they come out and kind of adding our own commentary on this entire subject. Ali does a great job of creating all of that, but it's a really excellent resource. I feel like I'm learning something myself each week with that content. But here we've got Madison Avenue recently conducting a study in which they found that nearly 2/3 of marketers are now tracking the carbon emissions generated by their digital advertising campaigns. And they're using a new term that just kind of came around this year called the carbon performance indicator. So not only am I looking at my KPIs for all of the advertising campaigns that I'm running, now we're beginning to look at carbon performance indicators. What is the carbon footprint on everything that I'm doing? Again, a lot of you, I'm assuming if you're on this webinar today, you're probably already thinking about these things for yourself as you're building your own ad campaigns, and you're not alone. More and more people are beginning to look into this to see how they can continue to reach their audience while lowering that overall carbon footprint. AdNet Zero is a advertising decarbonization platform that is actually operationalizing a 5-point plan, which includes curbing emissions from advertising production. I would highly encourage you to look into AdNet Zero. It's a fantastic group that's really paving the way on a lot of what people are learning about the carbon impact of all of our advertising efforts. And they're sort of building a community that's dedicating themselves to take these initial first steps to begin lowering their carbon footprint. And then finally, a recent poll conducted by Pollfish, they found that 2/3 of Americans believe that the advertising industry has an important role to play in decarbonization. And they have a specific belief that advertisers and agencies should work to reduce the carbon footprint of the ads that they create and place in media. So again, you're probably already thinking about this. Your audience is thinking about it too. We talked with a number of brands that we worked with this year that were at Climate Week back in September. There were so many conversations around this specific topic, and people are really looking for new ways to think about how they're going to enact their advertising campaigns. So we're going to talk a little bit today about okay, so we get it. Running an ad on a digital screen out of home is going to put a lot of extra carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. What does that mean? What can I actually do about it? And that's really where the rubber meets the road in the conversation today. So one thing that we found is by looking at some of the brands that we work with and other just general advertising campaigns that we're aware of, if you were to take that 4-week campaign on average that's running, a 4 to 6 second loop on different digital billboard and bus stop sign screens, and you were to take 5% of that 4-week out-of-home campaign and place it towards a carbon neutral platform, you would see a decrease of about 1 ton of carbon dioxide emitted during that 4-week period. And to put that into perspective, if 1 ton doesn't seem like a lot, it actually takes 1 acre of forest a full year to convert any carbon dioxide put into the atmosphere back into oxygen. So again, we talk about this, we realize that not everybody today can just turn off every digital out-of-home campaign they're running and shut it all down, and now my carbon footprint's gone, but where am I showing up? These are kind of the first steps that people are taking. How can we begin to start moving the needle in the direction of a better overall stewardship of the planet? So again, consumers, they're starting to expect that their preferred brands are taking steps now to safeguard the planet. A lot of us are already on the way. If you're on this call today, you're already thinking about it. We're thinking about it too, and that's the biggest part of one of the biggest parts of our mission here at Soofa is to help our cities and the advertisers that we work with build a more sustainable and healthy way to communicate with the audiences they're trying to reach. With that, I'm going to stop for a moment. I'm going to hand it over to my good friend Brad, and he'll share a little bit about how we enact some of this currently here at Soofa.
Cool. Thank you, Kyle. And thank you all again for taking the time to join our webinar today. Really excited to tell you more about advertising with Soofa. Soofa is the ultimate outdoor advertising platform. Being solar powered, we're able to get into exclusive locations that traditional outdoor just can't reach. Our advertising is always displayed alongside hyperlocal content that people are checking as a part of their daily routines. And we offer two different ways of advertising on the Soofa sign, from our full color branding to running digital content on the screen. And most importantly, we're carbon zero certified. So where our signs are installed allow us to get in front of over 3 million people every single week. Our median household income for our markets is $75K, and we're in 23 DMAs and growing. And where we will typically place these signs are on the sidewalks of streets throughout the US. We like to place them in areas where people are outside, enjoying their neighborhood, shopping, going out to eat, walking their dog, and just overall living life. What an ad will look like when a digitalized display is what you can see on the left. The ad will take up around 80% of the screen, and the bottom banner is always reserved for the community content we like to show. And we also offer brands another opportunity to further weave their name into the fabric of the community through our full color branding. So this is branding of the physical sign, everything around the digital screen on the front, the sides of the Soofa sign, as well as the back of the Soofa sign in the brand's colors, logo, and any messaging they'd like. And our signs are using a 42 e-ink display, which allows us to be fully powered by the sun. The solar panel on the top of the Soofa sign allows us to install in areas that the cities need us the most. And this ease of installation allows us to expand coast to coast. Go to the next. Allows us to expand coast to coast. And like I said earlier, in 23 DMAs and growing. We have a whole bunch coming in 2023, and we're so excited for what's to come. But I'd love to take this time to tell you about two brands who are taking on the 5% challenge. The first is the New England Revolution, who just wrapped up their 2022 season. They used the Soofa sign to not only build excitement around Boston for the team, but to also fill seats in the stadium and get more eyes on their broadcast. They wrapped our sign with their brand new logo covering Boston in their red, white, and blue. And then they also used the digital screen to show upcoming matches and QR codes of where to buy tickets for them, as well as where to watch the broadcasts themselves. Another brand also taking on the 5% challenge is Brookline Bank, who used the full color branding to further instill their brand throughout the Brookline community. They also leveraged the poll feature on the Soofa sign to not only receive feedback from the community, but to also learn about how the community felt they could improve their sponsorship. We agree with the nearly 2/3 of Americans who feel that advertising has an important role to play in the fight against climate change. We believe that you can focus on sustainability without sacrificing ROI or foot traffic, and it's all possible here at Soofa. And with that, if you have any questions or inquiries, please do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you again for your time.
Yeah, we'll take just a few minutes here for anyone that has some questions that they would like to add in here, and we'll be happy to address those. One of the things that Brad was touching on, obviously, we talk about the solar powered and sustainable aspect of what our signs do. Our mission, and you'll find this, when you go to the website, is to make every city smart, social, and sustainable. So one, I mean, the smart aspect, we're enabling cities to have the communication tool to reach their constituents where they're at. And it's an added benefit for all of our advertising partners who are able to access our platform, Soofa, just like our cities do, and post and update their content in real time. So people are coming to these signs to get information, and our advertising partners are a part of that, showing up on the screen and then able to adjust their campaigns on the fly through our platform, which is really excellent. And that's part of that social aspect. You heard Brad talk a little bit about the polling features and different ways that our advertising partners use the signs and the information they're collecting from those campaigns to continue to refine and make those campaigns even more targeted and better, and really reach the target ROI that they're going for. And then obviously, the sustainable aspect. We have a really deep belief in the possibilities for this industry to revolutionize the way that it thinks about reaching people and the way that it thinks about caring for the planet. It's something that is a passion of ours, and we've been so excited this year to find that so many others are having a similar experience. They're asking similar questions and they're looking for answers, and we're happy to be a part of helping people take that first step towards making a more sustainable and brighter future for our planet.
Awesome. All right. On that note, thank you all so much for joining us again. And yeah, have a wonderful Tuesday.
Yeah, thank you so much.